Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. It's time to look at the global stories that have made it to the front pages of our national dailies. And joining us to review the papers this morning is Jide Johnson, who's a public affairs analyst. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining the program.
Good morning, Rume. Good morning to all of our viewers over the world. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. All right, we'll begin with the Punch this morning, and the Punch leads with a Rivers emergency rule. National Assembly backs Tinubu as Fubara counters president's allegations. The writer here says suspended governor blames Wike, South-South governors oppose Tinubu, Iba's one pipeline vandals. On the Nigerian Tribune, and that's also the leading story, it says Rivers emergency rule. After National Assembly approval, Ibas assumes duty, vows to restore law and order. Says his mission requires collective support from all stakeholders. Without nay votes, reps, senators approve president's requests. Ask administrator to report to National Assembly, not FEC. Senate wants eminent persons to resolve Wike Fubara dispute. Tinubu salutes National Assembly. South-South Governors Forum says declaration did not meet constitutional provisions. So we've seen the reports from Rivers State, where obviously from the crisis, the president had to make a decision, and the decision was to impose an emergency rule in Rivers State, and he has put a military person in there because the governor has, and the House of Assembly members have been suspended for 6 months. So Ibas is obviously now the person in charge in Rivers State. A lot of people expected that, that's just the presidential declaration. When he goes to the National House of when he goes to the National Assembly, things may just be different. Something may come out that would be opposing what the president has said. But of course, the National Assembly has backed this, and now it is what it is. I want to get your take on the entire saga from Rivers State, how we started over 2 years ago, and what that decision has, what decision it has taken right now from the president.
Those who envisage this system of government never contemplate the kind of abuse it will be subjected to in Africa. The kind of federal system of government and presidential system of government that we practice provided for checks and balances among organs of government. However, what we have seen is about people exploiting the loopholes in this process. They are taught that it is absolutely impossible for both the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature to work in the same cahoot at the expense of the citizenry. Unfortunately, what we have seen is total state capture. And we have seen a situation whereby the leadership of the National Assembly is not determined by the members of the National Assembly, is determined by the presidency. Whoever wants to become the Senate president, wants to become the Speaker of the House of Rep, automatically needs to enjoy the support of the presidency. So invariably, the National Assembly, the State House of Assembly are just an extension of the executive. That's my interpretation. More so, the aspiration of every judge is to become a justice of the Supreme Court, and this can only happen through promotion. And promotion and appointment into these offices comes through the executive. So we have seen the emergence of a very, very powerful modern-day executive. When people refer to the governors and president as His Excellency, I've said over time that we shouldn't be referring to them as His Excellency. What we should be referring to them is His Imperial Majesty. We have seen imperialistic powers being given to modern day president. Now, bringing it home concerning what happens in Rivers State, there's no provisions in the Constitution that gives the president the power to suspend a democratically elected representative of the people. Are we saying if there is a state of emergency in Nigeria, the president will be suspended and there will be martial law, and then we'll bring in a retired military person to be the head of state? What people protested against when they were in Adepo is what they are doing. This type of arrangement is the kind of arrangement you have at the national level with the interim national government of Shonekon. And it's unfortunate that those that are paraded themselves, that have portrayed themselves as Democrats, are the ones that have become autocratic, despotic, authoritarian in our lifetime. If they had told you and I that this will happen in our lifetime, and it will come for people that people have celebrated in the past as heroes of democracy, nobody will believe it. Now, because the question is, who controls the army? If there's breakdown of law and order in any section, territory of Nigeria, the blame should go to the president and the service chiefs and the IGP. The governors don't have control over commissioner of police. The governors don't have control over the military formations in their respective. It is when it comes to internal and external security, the direct control is a command structure from Abuja. And so, if there is a breakdown of law and order, who should we blame? Should we blame the governor, or should we blame those that have absolute control over this? But in Nigeria, anything goes. It's abacadabra. You even look at those that were complaining that, well, I do not subscribe to what has happened in Rivers State House of Assembly and the rest of it in the last 2 years. However, it is the judiciary that is foot dragging, that didn't take decisions that they need to take over those matters. Otherwise, if this issue has been dispensed with within 3 months, everybody will have known that there is a restoration of order and justice. But the judiciary itself has become compromised in the process. As a result of that, decisions that should be taken with respect to whether defection is defection, with respect to issues related to the Constitution, were not taken. And coming to the vote yesterday in the National Assembly, that was a charade. The Constitution made express 2/3, and now there was no head count. It was done through voice vote. And that's how I've said it. If there is a proposal for third term, that's how it will be ratified. That's how we have seen systematically how from the fourth assembly to the 10th, how the power, the influence of the National Assembly has been reduced over time. Can you compare this Senate with the Senate of Chubu Akadigo and the rest of it? Can you compare this Senate with the Senate of Saraki? So you can go on and on and on and look at the characters that are in leadership of the National Assembly and the crisis that has bedeviled them, and you think these ones will not fold under any kind of pressure from any quarters. Those that should have assumed their independence, they subsume their independence to the executive. It's unfortunate. It's rather, and I've said it. Never allow a vampire to taste blood. If you allow a predator to taste blood, once he tastes blood, he wants more blood. Now, this was a litmus test to test whether this section of the Constitution is valid or not valid, whether the president has the power to suspend or not. And now the National Assembly has rubber stamped this. There's nothing stopping the president from doing it again. And there is nothing stopping another president in the future from using this as a case precedent to do it. Because Obasanjo did it and it was not challenged, does not mean that we should continue with it. This particular issue, I'm looking forward to the Attorney General of Rivers State, the Governor of Rivers State, and the rest of another stakeholders to take this particular matter to the Supreme Court to challenge it, the constitutional matter. Even the process and procedure with which the National Assembly approved this issue needs to be challenged. We need a judicial pronouncement concerning that. There is the need for a constitutional interpretation of this particular matter.
I mean, you were just speaking about precedent, right? And now we were looking at Osun State. The APC is already calling for, military rule there as well. So because you were just talking about precedent, if it's done before, it can be done again. And my question was, are we looking for Nigeria as a whole to become, that state of emergency whereby military rule is the order of the day?
The question we need to ask is just the logic. If there's emergency in Nigeria, would they suspend the president? It's simple logic. If you are not going to suspend the president and appoint an interim government for 6 months, then why do you suspend a governor for 6 months, a democratically elected governor? You can't remove governor by fiat by proclamation, when you are not a king, when you are not when you are not an emperor, it doesn't make any sense. And those that are supporting it, they should understand that is the wheel of life. The wheel of life turns, it spins. It's just a matter of time. It will turn. And then even when people refer to can you imagine a party controlled by the opposition? Now the president is appointing a sole administrator. Was the opposition party consulted to give them a nominee for that particular post? So this was an indirect approach by the ruling party to control a state that was won in an election by the opposition. In actual sense, when Obasanjo did his own, it was within even his party. Obasanjo did not even touch any opposition party. It was in Plateau, it was in Ekiti. And those states were controlled by the PDP. This is the first time we have seen an assault on the opposition by the ruling party using the powers of the presidency and exploiting the loopholes in the constitution. And every sane Nigeria must run at this. And I've said it. This is Rivers today. It can be Lagos tomorrow. It can be Lagos tomorrow. And people should not forget that nobody becomes president forever. It's just 8 years. It's just 4x, 4 plus x. X could be 8 years, it could be 12 years, because we don't even know. Because if the issue of third term is presented before this National Assembly, they will approve it with voice vote.
All right, let's move.
They will approve it. It's just a fait accompli. Because as far as I'm concerned, from the readings of this National Assembly, anything that is presented to them, they will just approve. So somebody should come up with it. You remember the issue of 6 years. One of the first things that was mooted was the issue of rotational presidency, that we should do presidency for 6 years. Remember that amendment?
Yeah.
Don't be surprised when they bring that amendment towards the tail end of this first term.
All right, let's move over to other matters. So still on the Punch, we're seeing a story here that says FG panel reconvenes Monday over Naira for crude crisis. So as of right now, Dangote doesn't sell in Naira anymore because, of course, the Naira for crude has been halted. So the people are the ones who are bearing the brunt of it all. Now, petrol has gone up from about 840 Naira per liter to 900 Naira per liter because obviously he's not getting his crude in Naira. What do you think about this? Because there's some brouhaha with the NNPCL and Dangote, and therefore we've seen this crisis. But the federal government panel reconvenes on Monday over the Naira for crude crisis. How do you think this needs to be resolved and the impact it has on the people?
When you have an inconsistent economic policy, how do you encourage foreign investors to come and invest in your economy? When your economic space, there's volatility in your economic space, who want to come and invest their money? When your currency is not stable, when you don't have a consistent policy, when you have an incoherent policy, when policies are subject to the whims and the caprices of super institutions that are bigger than the state, is it left for NNPC to decide that unelected bureaucrats, or is it for the elected representative of the people, the National Assembly? Well, because the National Assembly have mortgaged their rights, they've mortgaged their independence, and as a result of that, you have the roles that they should be playing in terms of oversight function, in terms of policy, setting policy and policy trust for our economy. They've sabotaged, they've delegated that to unelected bureaucrats who can come up with, depending on the side of the bed they wake up from, what will determine the policies that they will do. Is the classic case of what you have in Gulliver's Travel. One of the literature we read in secondary school then, when the king, because he broke his hand from breaking the egg from the big side, so he passed a national law that says that everybody must break the egg from the small side moving forward. So everything is subjected to the whims and the caprices of unelected bureaucrats who understand that they don't go for any election every 4 years. They can be in government for the next 30 years. And as a result of that, they become so powerful, more powerful than even the elected representative, and sometimes more powerful than even the president. And they determine the trust and direction of public policy. You ask yourself this question: in whose interest are these officials working? Are they working in the interest of Nigerians, or are they working against the interest of Nigerians? Now, somebody has invested, the Nigerian has invested in this particular sector, he has exposed the rot in that particular sector, is some we have seen some gradual improvement in that particular sector, and we see that it's just a matter of time. The market forces will actually bring the price of petroleum product to what we should be paying, not the overinflated one that we are paying under the subsidy regime. And then you see these people changing policy midway into the game. So who should we blame? As far as I'm concerned, it is those that we have elected that don't even know what they are doing.
The funny thing is, like I was saying, I mean, Dangote is a private investor into this whole petroleum industry. We have 4 refineries that are not working, and if you're saying that you do not want to sell that crude in Naira anymore, then go fix your refineries. Because at the end of the day, it's the people of Nigeria that are being impacted. They're the ones who have to pay so much with little income coming in. So I don't have enough, but then the little money that I have, I'm spending most of it on the cost of transportation. Just for what? Meanwhile, you know that there is this policy.
But I thought that they said they fixed their refinery.
Well, is it in production? That's the question. They fixed the refinery, but I think they said there was Warri refinery that had some stock. How much are they even producing? It's almost little or nothing because we're still importing fuel. And Dangote obviously has given the marketers a run for their money. That's even the reason why we could see it for about 840 naira per liter. But now, if you're saying that I don't want to sell it in naira anymore, Dangote obviously has to sell it, in a more expensive price. And the people are the ones, because it trickles down. So the people are the one who bear the whole ripple effect of it all. It's another kind of worms to even go into. But let's move on. So we have this that says APC backs Tinubu as Atiku Obi El-Rufai intensify coalition talks. So one thing that we've said is the opposition parties are probably not doing their job, or they're not being that strong force. So now that we might be seeing a coalition, what's your take on it? Especially with what's going on with Rivers State, because of course, on the Nigerian Tribune, it says Rivers, Atiku, Babachir, Lawal, El-Rufai, others reject emergency rule, task National Assembly, judiciary to save democracy, accuses Tinubu of bias. So the point here is we're seeing these people trying to obviously form a coalition, and it's just talks, but what would you expect to see at the end of the day?
What the coalition should be working for is for us to have electoral reforms. Without any electoral reforms, the outcome of future elections have already been predetermined. Yeah. Predetermined in the sense that if you look at the template of Kogi state election, if you look at the template of the off-cycle election, Kogi, in Edo, in Imo State, and then Bayelsa, you know that it's just clear, except you are not following you have not followed elections in Nigeria. And then we have gone back to pre-2015 election processes in Nigeria, whereby it is possible for an opposition to dislodge the ruling party. And we have gone back to 2003 and 2007, the fourth mode of conducting election, whereby any results that can just announce any result without recourse to the technology that were introduced in 2011 and upgraded in 2015 that brought about, that gave the opposition party the opportunity to win election in Nigeria. I think what the coalition should be looking at is, if we have electoral reform, then anybody that is elected will know that the sovereignty comes from the people. It is not through one magical wand of your political brigandry or what have you. All of these politics now, it has become highly monetized. That's why policies are done to impoverish the people, and then when it's time for the election, money will be shared. It's just now, if quote unquote allegedly senators will have to collect money to vote, somebody that has been elected into the Senate of the Federal Republic into the House of Reps, if money has to exchange hands before they could vote, how much more another person on the street when it comes to that. So what I think the coalition should be calling for, is for us to have electoral reforms. We don't want to have the type of election which we have in Imo State. We don't want to have the type of election we had in Kogi State. We don't want to have the type of election we have in Edo State. If we have those type of elections, those are just test cases for us moving forward. If we have those elections, the outcome of the elections already been predetermined. What the template that did not work in Adamawa, that was followed in Adamawa during the general election in 2023, those templates were put to practice in other states. It was clear. I do election watch night regularly on TV during election watch night, and we get live reports on what is coming. And I myself have participated in election. I've contested election. I've won election. I've lost election. So I understand political process. I understand the dynamics of election. I know how it goes. So I know not beyond being a trainer of journalists. So I understand the trappings. My early life, I was heavily involved right while I was in school in politics. So I understand the dynamics of the game. So if we don't have electoral reforms, I can tell you, it is absolutely impossible for you to determine the outcome of the election through the ballot boxes. Yeah. You can only determine the election through the announcement that is given by the electoral body. And that's a fact.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, it's still going to be the same story if nothing is being done. Yeah.
It's about, you remember, go to court. Once the result has been announced, you go to court. The safety gap that was put in place for 7 days review before the result is finally, INEC that provided it, INEC even in 2023 went against their own regulation concerning the election in court.
It's all right.
They did not even abide the provisions that they made provisions for. So what we should go for is electoral reform. Why should we vote? Why should we vote under 8 hours? And it will take us 72 hours to get the result.
Yeah, I get you. It's something that we definitely need to look into.
You vote between 8 and 2 by 6 p.m.
Right, Mr. Jide.
We should know the result. The result are counted at the same time.
Mr.
We should know
Jide.
the outcome of the result. Not in the. It is when we have gone to bed that they will now announce the result. You know what?
I understand your plight.
When men went to sleep.
I get it completely. I mean, if we have IREV and all of these portals, why are we not using it to our advantage? This is technology, and we don't have to wait that long. We have just 1 minute for this, so I want to get your take on this story on the Business NG that says Nigerian exchange shrinks as investors lose 35 billion naira. So one issue obviously that we have is the exchange rate in Nigeria, because it keeps fluctuating, to be honest. Even though now we've seen that naira has gained strength with just about 0.16%, but still it's not enough. And now we're seeing the Business engine leads with the fact that Nigerian exchange shrinks as investors lose 35 billion. 35 billion is a lot of money. We've seen a lot of shops, a lot of businesses close shops. But what's your take on this story as we wrap it up here now?
Have you ever seen the National Assembly talk about this particular issue? Issue of the economy, they don't talk about it. The dominant issue they talk about is just pure politics. They don't focus on how to grow this economy, how to create employment. And then if you have even seen the executive too, when it's even the media that throws spotlight on this, that have this Nigerian Economic Summit and the rest of it. Yeah. Beyond that, those that we have elected into offices don't even talk about this particular issue. It is how to win the next election, and basically to talk about what I say is ABC of public governance infrastructure. They don't talk about how many industries are coming into Nigeria, how to improve the power sector, to ensure that the manufacturing sector, which is the backbone of your gross domestic product, growing your economy. Your gross domestic product is what will strengthen your local currency, so that your local currency can be able to compete effectively with foreign currency. How many industries have been established in Nigeria since President Tinubu came into office? How many industries has been established in Lagos since Olu became the governor of Lagos State, and can go on as well, even in Rivers State, when with Fubara, or in Ogun State with Akwadodo, or in Oyo State with Makinde. These are the things that we should be looking at. How many jobs have they brought into Nigeria? How many jobs have they created outside of the government?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how I was even speaking about this earlier, because I was talking about how about 330,000 people go into the NYSC every year, but then they're coming out and there is no job on the market. So what are we doing? What industries are we opening up, ensuring that people can gain employment? But sadly, we're not seeing that. We're seeing whereby, cases whereby investors are actually moving out, businesses are closing down. The volatility, obviously, of the economy, of the naira is just ridiculous. There's a lot to unpack, but this is where we have to wrap it up right now. I want to say thank you so much for coming.
I have one in my house. My son finished his NYC in December, and we've been looking for a job for him since then. So it's just the reality.
It's the reality.
It's the reality of our experience. It's the reality of our experience.
And we need to do better, honestly. I think this is a call to the National Assembly. This is the call to the Senate, everybody, ensuring that we're looking for ways to better the lives of the people, not just political matters, not just looking for how to win elections, but things that would have that direct impact on your citizens. And that's what we'll definitely want. Jide, we want to say thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure having you this morning. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you. Have a lovely weekend.
You too, sir. All right, so we're speaking with Jide Johnson. He's a public affairs analyst, and we've just been taking the global stories that made it to the front pages of our national dailies this morning. We'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll dive into the fact that Atiku, Obi, and others have formed a movement or looking to form a movement to oust Tinubu. Please stay with us.